This is Malcolm341. In today's video, we're going to look at some Maya tricks and secrets. So today we're going to look at randomize vertex position using the transform component tool, straighten UVs using a single border edge, and how to use the hidden slice plane for perfectly aligned slices. So let's get into it. Okay, so first up, we have the randomized vertex position. And a lot of the time, maybe you'd think that you would need to get a plugin or a script or something, but basically you want to add some noise to these vertices so they're going to be all bumpy, basically. So we can actually do that directly in Maya by default by entering the transform component tool. So I'm just going to select all the vertices here, and then I'm going to come up to edit mesh, and then I'm going to go down to transform, and I'm going to go into the options box. And in the option box, you can see that there's actually a value for random. And so I'm just going to set that to 1, and I'm going to hit apply. You're going to see nothing actually happens. I'll just close that down. But what you will see is that I've got this little gizmo here now. And then if you look over here on the right in the channel box, you see the random is set to 1. And so now if I drag along one of the axes, I'm going to drag along the blue or whatever up. You can see as they move up, they're actually getting randomized along that axis. So you can see it goes all bumpy there. And now with the history, you can actually control the amount of randomness. So I'm just going to set that back down to 0. And you can see there's no randomness. So this controls how far away from the destination it's moved. And this controls how much randomness you want to add in from that destination. So if we slide that value, so you can go 0 to 1, I think you can even overdrive it. Like let's try going to 2. Yeah, so you can kind of dial this in. So let's say we only want to have 0.2 randomness, just a little bit of randomness. And of course, you can pull this along the other axes as well to add randomness in those directions also. So you can see here, it's going random that way. And then let's go X as well. And you can just make a big, disgusting mess out of your mesh. If you wanted to have some more finite control, you could go randomness a little bit. Whoops, let's just put randomness of whatever, 0.2, let's say, along Y or whatever. And then you could come in and actually add a second modifier. So we go back to edit mesh and go back to transform again. And from there, we can transform along this way, like just a little bit, or this way, just a little bit. So you can add like a couple on top of each other to create different effects, basically. And that will, of course, work on a sphere as well, or whatever shape you give it here. So whoops, I forgot to go into vert mode here. Just grab all of those, edit mesh, transform component, and then blue. So you can go in or out, do whatever you want, and then you can do these other axes as well. So you can create some pretty trippy effects. So pretty cool, super helpful. Okay, moving right along, let's look at the straighten UVs using a single border edge. Okay, so this, I swear, has changed in recent versions of Maya, like through a patch or something, because I do not remember the tool ever working like this. So in the past, a lot of people would come into a shape like this and they would add a loop down the center, and then they would select the edge in the center and they'd come over into the UV editor and they'd hold down shift and right click and they would say straighten shell. And that would kind of give them a semi-straight version of this type of UV mapping. And then they'd come back in over here and they would just delete that edge and then they would get something kind of almost what they need. Just going to undo that and delete the edge there. So I've noticed recently that you don't need to add that middle loop for whatever reason. So if I just select the edges here and just go right to the tool, it will do a pretty good job of it already. And so I swear that is not how it was when it first came out. Maybe it's been in a patch. I don't know. Maybe it's always been there. But either way, you can just do it on a single edge. You don't really need the middle edge there. The other interesting thing that I just noticed is that you can also use that same tool to double as the UV edge alignment tool. So if you select a single edge, so I'm going to select just that edge, shift, right click, and straighten shell. Instead of straightening the shell, it will actually align to that edge. I'm just going to press G to repeat. So you can align your whole UV shell to whatever edge you want using that same command. So that's pretty cool. So for example, you could come in here and you could say, okay, I want to go along this edge and straighten that just so it's all aligned like that. Then you could select these other edges and then go straighten that and you get that. And then you could probably do these ones as well and go straighten that as well. It looks like it flips it up to whatever the other edge is. So pretty cool. Some neat options in there that I don't think were there by default. This stuff, of course, works in my custom UV mapping tool as well. So if you did that and we did a straighten shell there, so you can do it through that menu as well. And the same thing would happen if you do the edges this way. Do that, but that is still a waste of time in my opinion. Honestly, I would get the plugin and then I would gridify these with a rectangular grid like this. and then you can choose which way it goes. So definitely grab that if you're doing a lot of gridification of your UVs. Okay, and lastly, we have the hidden slice plane feature from the multi-cut tool. Okay, so I'm just going to go up into Mesh Tools and then enter the multi-cut tool. So the multi-cut tool already has a slice plane built in. If you just drag not on top of the mesh, you'll get this slice, and it'll be based on the camera. It'll just cut through your mesh however you want. You just drag, cut, drag, cut, drag, cut, drag, cut. You can even hold down Shift to constrain the axes to whatever you type in the options menu. It looks like I have mine constrained to 45 degrees, but you can get a perfectly straight cut. That's awesome. We could go into the side view here and we could do a perfectly straight cut by holding Shift and dragging over. Boom. So that's all great, but what if you want to do a perfectly straight cut and you want it to align exactly with the top of this box, which I actually often have to do. I have to do this quite a bit. It's kind of impossible with this tool. You can like try to eyeball it and nope, didn't get close. Oh, a little bit. Nope, it's not going to get close. It's basically impossible. So you can do the cut and you can snap it up later, but that's often what you don't want because you may have already UV'd your model and you just need to add a slice for whatever reason and it needs to be in the perfect spot. And so there's a hidden tool that lets you do that. Just hit undo and get rid of all those slices so we can see what's happening. So I'm going to select my mesh and I'm going to go back into Mesh Tools and then I'm going to go to Multi-Cut, but this time I'm just going to go to the Options box instead. So click that, open this up, and you'll see in the Options box, there's a hidden feature called Slice Tool. And this is a really great tool because it allows you to slice along X, Y, Z, Y, X, Z, whatever you want. And so I want to do a slice along ZX. And you'll see it gives me a plane, and the plane is actually interactive. And what's important about this is because the plane's interactive, it doesn't destroy the UVs, but it also allows you to snap. So if I hold down V on my keyboard, or click the magnet icon up there, whatever, hold down V, and then drag, see, I can snap to those vertices. So if I wanted to snap to the exact top of that box there, if we go into the side view, see now it's perfect. And so if I just exit the tool by pressing enter, by pressing W on the keyboard, it's kind of weird to like get out of the tool to accept the cut or whatever, you'll see the cut is exactly where I want it. So it's perfectly aligned. So this is super powerful because it allows you to interactively move the cut and snap it. So let's go one more time. It's kind of weird. The tool like disappears too, which is kind of annoying. Mesh tool and then multi-cut options and then click that again. And see we can drag that down there and I'm going to hold down V and snap it to right there and then press W to enter the move tool. And then I've got it perfectly aligned there as well. On top of that as well, if we did a slice like that again, you can also do this and you can rotate it if you want through all the axes, do whatever you want. It's basically an interactive plane, so you can kind of create whatever shape you need, but often I just use it for doing horizontal slices and then snapping to another vert or whatever, and then just W to accept that. So the only downside to the tool is every time you accept the cut, it exits the tool, and then you have to like re-enter the tool, which is actually super annoying. So I'm thinking about writing a script which just extracts this little part of the tool into a floating toolbox, because that would be way more useful. I think that's how it used to be implemented back in the old version of Maya when the next panel was here or whatever. I think it was like a lot easier to use. Now it's like kind of painful, so we'll see. But either way, it's a super helpful tool. Another cool feature of this tool is you can use the extract faces tick box and then type a number in here for how much gap you would like to leave. And when you add the slice, it will extract a hole there. So that can be useful in certain situations as well. Pretty cool. Thanks very much for watching this video. Without viewers like you, this channel would not exist. If you like this video and enjoy the channel, please support me by purchasing something from the online store. Each purchase goes towards creating more video content and keeps the channel ad-free. See you next time. Have an outstanding day.